Jasper and Riza had been the envy of their friends for years. Their relationship was a picture of perfection, at least on the surface. Jasper was the loyal, hardworking type, building a future for the two of them. Riza, meanwhile, was beautiful, vibrant, and full of life. Everyone around them assumed they'd eventually get married and live happily ever after. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Riza had begun to feel restless. She loved Jasper, but his constant focus on work and their future left her feeling neglected. His long hours at the office, saving for the house they dreamed of, meant Riza spent more and more nights alone. And while she appreciated Jasper's dedication, she began craving the passion and attention that had slowly disappeared from their relationship. Her heart ached for something more, something exciting. One evening, after yet another night of watching the clock tick as Jasper texted her that he'd be late again, Riza decided to go out with friends. She needed a break from the monotony of her lonely evenings. It was during that night, in a lively, upscale lounge, that Riza met a man who would change everything. That night, Riza crossed paths with Nathaniel Santiago, a charismatic businessman dripping with wealth and confidence. Nathaniel wasn't just any man. He was older, experienced, and exuded an air of power and authority that immediately captivated Riza. His suit was tailored to perfection, his presence commanded attention, and when he smiled at her from across the bar, Riza felt an undeniable spark. He introduced himself, bought her a drink, and soon they were deep in conversation. Nathaniel was unlike anyone Riza had ever met, charming, worldly, and attentive. Unlike Jasper, who was always focused on the future, Nathaniel lived in the moment, showering her with compliments, flirting openly, and offering her the kind of attention she had been missing. Riza knew it was wrong to feel attracted to him. She was committed to Jasper, and he was working so hard to build their future. But there was something intoxicating about Nathaniel. He wasn't just wealthy. He knew how to make her feel seen, desired, and special. The night ended with Nathaniel handing her his card. "If you ever need someone to talk to, call me," he said with a knowing smile. Riza hesitated for a moment before taking it, her heart racing. She knew this was dangerous, but the allure of Nathaniel's world, a world filled with luxury and excitement, was impossible to ignore. Days turned into weeks, and despite her initial hesitation, Riza found herself texting Nathaniel. It started innocently enough, just casual conversations about life, work, and the things she felt she couldn't talk to Jasper about anymore. But soon, those messages turned into late-night phone calls, and before long, Riza was meeting Nathaniel in secret. Their affair began slowly, with dinners at exclusive restaurants and romantic weekends away in luxury hotels. Nathaniel spoiled her with expensive gifts, taking her to places she had only dreamed of visiting. For the first time in months, Riza felt alive again. She felt like she was the center of someone's world, something she had lost with Jasper's constant preoccupation with their future. The guilt, however, began to gnaw at her. Riza loved Jasper, she truly did, but the thrill of being with Nathaniel, the excitement and passion that filled their secret moments, made it hard to stop. She told herself it wasn't serious, that it was just a fling, but deep down, she knew she was betraying Jasper, and that thought haunted her. What made things worse was that she still went home to Jasper every night, pretending that everything was fine. She'd smile at him, kiss him goodnight, and listen as he talked about his plans for their future. But the more time she spent with Nathaniel, the harder it became to hide the truth. Everything came crashing down one weekend when Riza and Nathaniel took a spontaneous trip to a private beach resort. It was the most extravagant weekend Riza had ever experienced. Lavish meals, long walks on the beach, and stolen kisses under the moonlight. For a moment, Riza allowed herself to forget everything, to forget Jasper, her guilt, and the consequences of her actions. But as they returned from the weekend, Riza's world collapsed. While browsing through social media one afternoon, she came across a post from her best friend, Olivia. It was a casual photo of Olivia with her family, taken during a weekend brunch. Riza's heart dropped when she saw Nathaniel in the background of the photo. He wasn't just any man. Nathaniel was Olivia's father. The realization hit her like a freight train. She had been having an affair with her best friend's father, the man who had known her for years, who had attended her birthday parties, and who had been nothing but kind and generous to her. The guilt she had been pushing aside came crashing down with full force. Riza was horrified, not only by the betrayal of Jasper but by the betrayal of her best friend. She had no idea what to do. How could she ever face Olivia again? How could she live with herself after everything she had done? That evening, Nathaniel called her, but for the first time since their affair began, Riza didn't answer. She was too overwhelmed by guilt and confusion to speak. The affair had gone too far, and now, not only was her relationship with Jasper on the line, but her friendship with Olivia was at risk of being destroyed. As Riza sat in her apartment, staring at the phone, she realized she had reached a breaking point. Something had to give. But how could she ever make things right? How could she face the consequences of what she had done without losing everything she cared about? Riza knew she was standing at the edge of a cliff, and one wrong move could send her tumbling into a world of heartbreak and loss that she could never recover from. The days after Riza's shocking discovery felt like a blur. She avoided Nathaniel's calls, terrified of facing the man who had led her down this dangerous path. Guilt weighed heavily on her every time she glanced at her phone, which buzzed incessantly with his messages. But even more paralyzing was the looming fear of confronting Jasper and Olivia. The once comfortable apartment Riza shared with Jasper now felt suffocating. Each night, she would lie beside him, struggling to breathe under the weight of her betrayal. Jasper, blissfully unaware, would talk about their future, the house he planned to buy, the vacations they would take once they had saved enough. He was still that loving, hard-working man she had fallen for, but his affection only served to deepen her shame. One evening, while Jasper was making dinner, Riza's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, heart pounding when she saw it was Nathaniel. Unable to handle the pressure any longer, she stepped outside onto the balcony and answered the call. "Riza, why are you avoiding me?" Nathaniel's voice was smooth as ever, but there was a hint of frustration in it. "I can't do this anymore, Nathaniel," Riza whispered, glancing nervously back into the apartment. I know who you are." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Nathaniel responded. "I assume you saw the photo?" "Yes. Olivia is my best friend, Nathaniel. How could you do this? How could I let this happen?" Riza's voice cracked with emotion, the reality of her actions crashing down on her. Nathaniel sighed deeply. "Riza, I didn't plan for any of this to happen. We connected, and it just happened. But listen to me, it doesn't change what we have." "What we have?" Riza repeated in disbelief. "What we have is a mistake. I've betrayed Jasper. I've betrayed Olivia. I can't even look at myself in the mirror." Before Nathaniel could respond, Riza hung up, tears streaming down her face. She knew there was no turning back now. The affair had to end, and she had to find a way to make things right, no matter how difficult it would be. The next few days were agony for Riza. She avoided Olivia, coming up with excuses whenever her best friend wanted to meet up. But it wasn't long before Olivia noticed something was wrong. One afternoon, Olivia showed up unexpectedly at Riza's apartment, concern written all over her face. "Riza, what's going on? You've been distant, and I feel like something's bothering you," Olivia said as she sat down on Riza's couch. Riza's heart raced. She could feel the weight of her secrets pressing down on her, suffocating her. But how could she tell Olivia the truth without destroying their friendship? How could she admit that she had been having an affair with her best friend's father? "I've just been going through some stuff," Riza mumbled, avoiding Olivia's gaze. "It's personal." Olivia reached out and placed a hand on Riza's arm. "You know you can tell me anything, right? We've been friends for years. I'm here for you, no matter what." Tears welled up in Riza's eyes. She wanted to confess everything right then and there, to unburden herself of the guilt that had been eating away at her for weeks. But she couldn't do it, not yet. She wasn't ready to face the consequences. "Thanks, Olivia," Riza whispered, her voice barely audible. I just need some time. Olivia nodded, her expression still filled with concern. Okay, just know I'm here when you're ready to talk. As Olivia left the apartment, Riza collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. She was trapped in a web of lies, and the more she tried to hide the truth, the more suffocating it became. She knew she couldn't keep living like this. Sooner or later, everything would come crashing down. One evening, as Jasper and Riza sat down for dinner, Riza could no longer contain the guilt that had been gnawing at her. She had been living a double life for too long, and the pressure was unbearable. Her love for Jasper, despite everything that had happened, still burned inside her, and she knew she owed him the truth. Jasper, Riza began, her voice shaking, I need to tell you something I've been hiding from you. Jasper looked up from his plate, concern etching his features. What is it, Riza? You're scaring me. Tears filled Riza's eyes as she struggled to find the right words. I've made a terrible mistake. I've been seeing someone else. Jasper's face went pale. He stared at her in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what she had just said. What do you mean? How could you? It wasn't planned. I didn't mean for it to happen, Riza sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I've been so lonely and I let myself get swept up in something I shouldn't have. I'm so sorry, Jasper. I love you, but I've made the biggest mistake of my life. Jasper's shock turned to anger as the reality of Riza's confession sank in. Who is it? He demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Who's the man you've been seeing? Riza hesitated, knowing that telling Jasper the truth would only make things worse. But she couldn't lie anymore. It's Nathaniel Santiago. The moment the name left her lips, Jasper's expression darkened. He stood up from the table, his fists clenched in fury. Nathaniel Santiago? Olivia's father? Are you serious, Riza? How could you do this? I'm sorry, Riza cried, standing up as well. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just got out of control. Jasper paced the room, his anger palpable. You've been cheating on me with your best friend's father? Do you even realize what you've done? You've destroyed everything. Riza sobbed uncontrollably, feeling the full weight of her actions crashing down on her. She had hurt the person she loved most, and there was no way to take it back. All she could do was beg for forgiveness. I'm sorry, Jasper. Please forgive me, Riza pleaded, falling to her knees. Jasper stared at her, his face a mixture of hurt and betrayal. I don't know if I can forgive you, Riza, he said coldly. You've broken my trust, and I don't know if we can ever fix this. The following days were tense, with Jasper avoiding Riza as much as possible. He couldn't look at her without feeling the sharp sting of betrayal. Riza knew their relationship was hanging by a thread, but she wasn't ready to give up. She needed to confront Nathaniel and put an end to their affair once and for all. Riza arranged to meet Nathaniel in a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes. When he arrived, she could see the concern in his eyes, but she had no time for pleasantries. This has to end, Nathaniel, Riza said firmly, her voice trembling. I can't do this anymore. I've hurt Jasper, I've hurt Olivia, I've hurt myself. Nathaniel leaned forward, his expression softening. Riza, I never meant to cause you pain. I care about you, and I don't want to lose you. This isn't about what you want, Nathaniel. Riza snapped, her voice rising. This is about me fixing the mess I've made. I love Jasper, and I can't keep doing this. It's over. Nathaniel stared at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. I understand. If this is what you want, I won't stand in your way. Riza stood up, feeling a sense of finality wash over her. It's not what I want. It's what I need. As Riza walked out of the cafe, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had made a decision that could either destroy her relationship with Jasper or give them a chance to rebuild. But now, it was time to face the consequences of her actions, no matter how painful they might be. The days following Riza's final confrontation with Nathaniel were agonizing. The affair was over, but the damage was already done. Jasper, who had been her rock for so long, was now a ghost in their shared apartment. He barely spoke to her, and when he did, it was with a coldness that sent chills down her spine. Jasper had moved out of their bedroom and slept on the couch, creating a physical and emotional distance that Riza found unbearable. She knew she had no right to ask for forgiveness, but the silence between them was torturous. Every day she considered leaving, packing her bags and walking out, but something inside her held on. Despite everything, she still loved Jasper deeply, and she wasn't ready to give up on him, even if he had every reason to give up on her. One evening, after several days of tense silence, Riza decided to break it. She found Jasper sitting at the kitchen table, his face buried in his hands. He looked exhausted, as though the weight of everything was finally taking its toll on him. "Jasper, we need to talk," Riza said softly, taking a seat across from him. He looked up, his eyes cold and distant. "What's there to talk about, Riza? You made your choice." Riza felt her throat tighten. "I know I hurt you, and I'll never be able to take that back. But I want to fix this, if there's even a way to fix it. Please, Jasper, talk to me. I can't stand this silence anymore." Jasper's jaw tightened, his fists clenching on the table. "Fix it? How do you fix something like this? You didn't just cheat on me, Riza. You destroyed everything we had. You slept with my best friend's father. How do you even begin to fix that?" "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away," Riza said, tears welling in her eyes. "But I need you to understand that it was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I love you, Jasper. I never stopped loving you." Jasper let out a bitter laugh. "If you loved me, how could you do this? How could you throw away everything we built for some rich guy? Do you even understand what you've done to me? To us?" Riza wiped at her tears, her voice breaking. "I was lonely, Jasper. You were so focused on our future that I felt like you weren't there for me anymore. I'm not trying to justify what I did. It was wrong, and I regret it every single day. But I need you to know that it wasn't about not loving you. I felt lost." Jasper's expression softened for a moment, but the hurt in his eyes remained. "You think I wasn't there for you? I was working for us, Riza. I was trying to build a life for us. And now, I don't even know what's left of that." Riza reached across the table, her hand trembling as she placed it on Jasper's. "I know, and I took that for granted. But please, Jasper, don't give up on us. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right." Jasper stared at her hand on his mind clearly conflicted. Finally, he pulled his hand away, standing up from the table. "I need time, Riza. I can't just pretend everything is okay. I don't know if we can fix this, but I need space to figure things out." Riza nodded, her heart sinking. "I understand. I'll give you space. But please know that I'm not giving up on us." While Riza and Jasper struggled with their broken relationship, there was another storm brewing on the horizon, one that Riza had been dreading for weeks. Olivia, Riza's best friend, had no idea about the affair between Riza and her father, Nathaniel, but Riza knew it was only a matter of time before she found out. Riza had continued to avoid Olivia, making up excuses to avoid meeting with her. But Olivia was persistent, and one afternoon, she showed up at Riza's apartment unannounced. "Riza, we need to talk," Olivia said, her voice firm as she stood in the doorway. Riza's heart raced. She knew this was it, the moment she had been dreading. She stepped aside, letting Olivia in, her mind racing with how she was going to handle this. Olivia sat down on the couch, her arms crossed over her chest, a serious expression on her face. "You've been acting really weird lately, and I feel like something's going on. You're my best friend, and I can tell when something's wrong. So, what is it? What's going on?" Riza swallowed hard, her hands trembling. "Olivia, there's something I need to tell you, but it's not going to be easy to hear." Olivia raised an eyebrow, her gaze sharp. "What do you mean?" Taking a deep breath, Riza forced herself to meet Olivia's eyes. I've been seeing someone behind Jasper's back." Olivia's eyes widened in shock. "What? Riza, are you serious? You've been cheating on Jasper? How could you do that?" Tears filled Riza's eyes as she continued. "It's worse than that, Olivia. The man I've been seeing, it's your dad." The color drained from Olivia's face as she stared at Riza in disbelief. "My dad? You've been sleeping with my father?" Riza nodded, unable to hold back the tears. "It wasn't planned, I swear. It just happened. And now, I've ruined everything. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I never wanted to hurt you." For a moment, Olivia was silent, her face a mixture of shock, betrayal, and anger. Then, suddenly, she stood up, her expression hardening. "I can't believe you, Riza. You're my best friend, and you've been sleeping with my father? How could you do this to me? To Jasper? To my family?" Riza sobbed, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Olivia. I never meant for any of this to happen." Olivia shook her head, tears brimming in her own eyes. "You've destroyed everything, Riza. I don't even know who you are anymore." With that, Olivia turned and stormed out of the apartment, leaving Riza sobbing uncontrollably on the couch. The friendship that had once meant everything to her was now shattered, and she had no one to blame but herself. After Olivia's departure, Riza felt as though her entire world had come crashing down around her. She had lost her best friend. Her relationship with Jasper was in ruins, and she was left feeling completely alone. The weight of her actions had finally caught up with her, and the guilt was almost unbearable. Jasper continued to keep his distance, only coming home to sleep on the couch before leaving early for work. The silence between them was suffocating, and Riza knew that every day that passed without a conversation was pushing them further apart. One evening, Jasper returned home later than usual, his expression more troubled than usual. Riza, who had been sitting on the couch, stood up as soon as he walked in. "Jasper, can we talk?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling. Jasper hesitated for a moment before nodding. He sat down on the couch, his eyes filled with exhaustion and pain. "I've been thinking," Jasper began, his voice heavy with emotion. "I don't know if I can move past this, Riza. I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were." Riza's heart sank, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand, Jasper. I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect things to go back to normal right away. But I love you, and I'm willing to fight for us. Please, just give me a chance to make things right." Jasper sighed, rubbing his temples as if trying to ease the tension. "I don't know, Riza. I've been thinking about everything, about us, about what you did. And part of me wants to forgive you, to believe that we can fix this. But another part of me, it's just so angry, so hurt." Riza knelt in front of him, taking his hands in hers. "I know, and I don't blame you for feeling that way. But please, don't give up on us. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I'll go to counseling. I'll give you space, whatever you need." Jasper looked down at her, his eyes filled with conflict. "I don't want to lose you, Riza, but I'm scared that if we try to fix this, we'll just end up hurting each other even more." Riza squeezed his hands, her heart aching. "We've already been through so much, Jasper, but if we love each other, we can get through this. I believe in us." For a long moment, Jasper was silent, as if weighing his options. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Okay, we'll try, but I need time, and I need you to understand that things won't be the same for a while." Riza nodded, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Thank you, Jasper. I'll do whatever it takes." The days that followed were tentative, fragile, as Riza and Jasper attempted to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. They began going to counseling together, addressing the pain and betrayal that had torn them apart. It wasn't easy. Every session was filled with raw emotions, tears, and difficult conversations. But slowly, they began to take small steps toward healing. Jasper was still guarded, and Riza could feel the distance between them. But there was hope. They both wanted to make their relationship work, even if it would take time. Olivia, however, was not so quick to forgive. She refused to speak to Riza, and their once close friendship seemed beyond repair. Riza knew that regaining Olivia's trust, if it was even possible, would take far longer than fixing her relationship with Jasper. But for now, she focused on the one thing she could control, her own actions moving forward. One evening, as Riza and Jasper sat together on the couch, watching a movie, Jasper reached over and took her hand. It was a small gesture, but to Riza, it meant the world. It was a sign that, despite everything, there was still love between them. A love that might, one day, help them find their way back to each other completely. But for now, they were learning how to pick up the pieces of their broken relationship, one small step at a time. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.